Okay guys, so last video we talked about the presenter, and this video we're going to talk about the model. So let's get started. So first thing obviously we need to do is actually create our model class. So new class, home model, and it's usual nonsense. Okay, so here's our model class. We're going to add nothing really to it for now. However, we are going to need to inject this into our presenter, so we'll do that first. Okay, so let's set up our presenter. So we've got our home view, home, I can't type today at all, home model, and then create the field, and that pops into place. That's great. I'm actually going to rename that to model. Okay, great stuff. Let's go into our module, create a provides method. I'm just going to duplicate this one. Copy paste some code, model, and our model should have our activity. And the reason we want the activity will be explained in a moment. So this is your typical model setup for Dagger. We have our model and the presenter talks to it. So in the last video I said I was going to essentially, on the click, do a network request. However, network request takes time, so we should tell the user, we should set up the view so that when this request is happening, we need to show some sort of loading animation. So let's do that. Let's very quickly create, up the top here, we're going to create a private final progress dialog. Progress dialog equals new progress dialog, the activity in the constructor. We can say get context, actually. Damn it. Accidentally pressed the Windows key and it opened up the Ubuntu menu. So anyway, we're going to get progress, and then we're going to call set message looking up user. That needs to go down here. So now we've got our progress dialog. So let's create some public methods to control this. Public void show loading, boolean loading, if loading progress dialog dot show else. And because of the way I'm recording this, you can't see this. Dismiss for that one. Because I'm recording this, you can't see the little extra windows that are popping up, so I'm using the autocomplete heavily in IntelliJ. But you can't see that because of the way OBS was recording the window. So, anyway, we have this work set up correctly. We have our module all set up. Everything's good to go. The only problem is the module is complaining about this. So we're just going to set up our model here, and then we're just going to set this up. So that's just to connect the presenter to the model. Everything's good. It's all scoped correctly. Our scope has the scope annotation. So everything's good to go. So let's fill out that model method, okay? So what else does the model actually need? Well, in our application component, so if we go into our app package here on the left and we go into Dagger and we go to app component, you'll see we have this GitHub network, which is provided by the application level component. So we want to get that into our activity. So the model is going to act as a proxy, essentially. So the model is actually very basic. It just adds as a single proxy to everything inside the class. So, or all the data feeds, because we don't want access to all the GitHub application methods in a presenter. We don't want all our database stuff. We don't want everything. Because when we go to do testing, mocking all that stuff gets very difficult. So we're going to aggregate these into a model class, which is much easier to mock, and we only have to mock one class, which is much simpler. So let's do that. Let's add our GitHub network. So we can steal that. From there, we're going to go to our presenter here, and we're going to add our GitHub network in here as a parameter. That's great. And now that the GitHub network has been added, we can start accessing it. So we're going to write a method which is public observable, not 100% sure, but we're going to say get user repos, and it's going to be return GitHub network dot get repos for user. Now of course we're missing our username, so we need our string for our username. So we're going to put that in, and this is returning a list of GitHub repos, so we just need to put that in. And there we go. Now, generally in the model, I won't actually do any form of editing. I won't do any mapping. I won't do any customization. That's up to the presenter to do the actual data mapping and formatting. So sometimes in here, though, I will filter out common stuff, although generally I'll actually won't use a raw retrofit service. I'll use an adapter service, which will have all that inside of it, so it maps more methods to one network call, but we won't be going over that in this. So let's talk about let's talk about getting this into the presenter. So we have all this set up. So now what we're going to go to our home presenter, and we're going to have a method. So all we're doing currently is listening for the click and logging it, and then we're subscribing to say show a message. So now what we're going to do is we're first going to do a do on next 2 underscores, because we don't care about the parameters, we don't care about the button attribute. Do on next, and we're going to say view.set show loading true. So that will tell the view to show or loading true. This is RxJava if you haven't seen it. You'll need to know that to follow this. Then we're going to do a switch map, because we want to cancel any, if the user taps the button twice very quickly, we want to cancel any previous request and only show the latest. So then we're going to say model.get user repos. Now we're in a pickle. We don't have the user's input. So we're going to add a method to our view. Public string get username edit, and then we're going to just return our username edit text dot get text dot toString. Okay, so we can just say view dot get username edit. That's great. And then our map here would be our repos. So this would be a GitHub repos list. And then we want to, when we're finished, all of this, actually, we need to copy this again. So we're going to say do on each. So the reason we're using false to hide the loading, the reason we use do on each in this case is because if the chain completes or errors, we want to make sure to hide it. If you use do on next, it'll only be if this network request succeeds. Actually, I'm going to check something here. No, I don't have it. I always forget this. The internet permission. Uses permission. Internet. Okay, grand. Just make sure we don't forget that. Now, we've got a problem with threading. We're not on the right thread, so we want to say observe on schedulers.io, and then this one here will be observe on schedulers not Android schedulers main thread. Excellent. That's great. So the view manipulation is happening off that. This one here is interesting. Hopefully we can read from a view in the background thread, but you can't update. Actually, I'm not sure about that. You know what? Let's not make that mistake. Let's use a map before this. We're just going to say view dot get username edit, and then this will be username here, since we've done a map, and then we can do that. So that will relay that correctly through. Now this is going to yell at me there to replace it with a method reference, so I'm going to suppress that for the class. Actually, I did that wrong. Suppress for class, so we can clearly see what's a lambda and what's not. Okay, brilliant. That's a notification object, but we don't care about that because this doesn't require it. Okay, let's hit run and see what happens. Actually, you know what? let's print out that in the toast. Now, of course, the toast is going to be gigantic, but we'll see it anyway. So if we hit run and I just click the button to show the window, hopefully it'll work. Come on now. Gradle build running. Gradle's just taking its time as usual. I hope if anyone's watching this that they know their Rx pretty well, because it's getting pretty hairy. I'm just going to leave the terminal up here, so I just make sure that you can see all the text. Unfortunately, it has stopped. Why is that? Oh my god. Ha! Retrofit Y. I never put in the base URL. Unfortunately, I don't know GitHub's base URL off by heart, so I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so we've got it running now with the correct base URL from GitHub. However, one thing you might have noticed there is that Retrofit didn't crash before in the tutorial series until now. Because of that, that's because Dagger creates things lazily to prevent a massive allocation all at once. So anyway, we go to lookup user. And another crash. That is amazing. Oh, great. This is an auto value problem. It's complaining about nullability. So there's a language check here. Language. There we go. So this can be null. This might take a bit of time, guys, to figure this out. I haven't fully identified all these models perfectly. But you know what, fuck it, I'll leave it in the tutorial. Why not? It'll annoy us. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully it won't crash this time. I just copied the models into thingy. There you go. So there's our thing done. So we tap it, everything works. Now one last thing we're going to do in the presenter, we're actually going to put a retry here. And the reason we're going to use a retry is because if this fails, the view becomes unresponsive. So by putting retry, you can't actually see that. I put the retry here. Because if the view fails to load, the retry will automatically resubscribe to the button if the network fails, which is great. If I wanted to make it so that if the network fails to retry the network request multiple times, I would put it after I'd put it like this, .retry tree. That means this part, this observable here would change because, you know, switch map and all that. Anyway, that's working great. And that's essentially our model. Now we're going to go into some more advanced stuff and make this video a little longer because I want to. So we're going to hide our view, or hide our emulator there, and we're going to handle rotation. So rotation is one of those famous kind of concepts in Android that everyone tries to avoid rather than deal with the issue. And this is how you deal with the issue in this. We have a direct way of handling it, no nonsense. So rotation is all about data. So rotation is all about data. And if it's data, it goes in the model because that handles all the data for the screen. So let's add rotation caching. So when the device rotates, we save our states and reload the states correctly inside our model, not inside the view and not inside the presenter. This is one of my beefs with the normal MVP, is that the rotation seems to be handled and cached, parceled within the view. And then you've got the view giving data to the presenter when it shouldn't. The presenter should either be requesting data from the view, which is user input, or it should be giving view data to the view to render. So let's make this work. Let's make a public method. And I know IntelliJ is yelling me at or studios and yelling me about package access, but we're not going to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a method for saving data. So we're going to say void save repo list. Okay, state. Now, in order to make this work, we have to use a library, unfortunately. There's no way to just say, tell the activity directly, save this state. We can't just say, this is the reason we have the activity here, by the way. We can't say activity.saveState because it's a callback. However, we can use a little trick, which I've used, where we attach a headless fragment to the activity and use it to save the state. So we can put state inside the fragment can save it in a bundle, and then can cache that across rotations. Unfortunately, writing all that code is kind of tedious, so there's a handy library we can use, which I wrote, which is up on JCenter. It's called RxSaveState. Okay, and you just call update save state, pass in your activity, and it gives you a lambda is what you require, so it's a bundle, and then it's a lambda where you need to update that bundle with your thing. So update bundle dot put parseable array list, and then we're going to give it a key. So we're going to make a public final string. This will be called repo state key. Actually, repo list state key, and then we're just going to duplicate that because it really doesn't matter what you put in here so long as it's always the same. So that's our key, and then we have our repo list. Now, unfortunately, because Android requires an array list, we use a new array list and put in our repo list. Great. So let's make a method to get this back out. Observable list GitHub repo, and then we're going to say get repos from save state, and we're going to have return RxSaveState dot get save state, and we're going to take in the key, which is the repo list key, state key. Great. Dot map, and then we pass in our bundle, and then we need to just say bundle dot get parseable array list, and the key is this one. This is activity here actually, and there we go. So that's our saving and restoring state. Now the way this works is, I said it's using a headless fragment, but this observable will be empty if there's no state. So this observable here, this get repos from save state, will be empty, which means this map will never be called unless there's a state. So let's use that. So let's go to our presenter, and we say view.observe button, blah blah blah. So we're going to add a new method in here, private subscription load saved state, and then we're just going to say model dot get use repo save state dot subscribe. We don't need to switch threads because there's no need, and we will say that. Okay, so we'll say the GitHub repo list. That's actually what we're missing here, is a reference to that. There we go. And then we just say return, and we just attach that up here to our composite subscription so everything subscribes correctly. And then when we run this, what should happen is, actually we haven't done it quite yet, what will happen is when we fix it up a little bit, is that first time it runs, there won't be anything in the save state. We tap the button, it'll load the save state. Now the save state on this screen is actually pointless. We should be doing that on the next screen, but hey, it's just to show you this. So what will happen is, nothing will happen the first time we run. We click the button will load the repos. After this, on the main thread, we will put that repo into the save state, and then everything will be happy. Then when we rotate the screen, it will automatically pull that out of save state and show that list again. In order to do that though, we need to make update our state. We need to actually put something in it. So we need to say dot do on next GitHub repo list model dot save repos GitHub repo list. Okay, let's hit the run button, see what happens. Restart app. Okay, so let's bring that up on the video recording. Okay, hopefully this works without crashing, and it seems to be working. So we load it, shows us our thing. Great. So now when we rotate, it should automatically show that toast again. There you see the way I showed it again? That means our save state is working, which means this observable has saved state correctly. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to want to... yeah. Okay, so I've managed to really confuse the device. There we go. So each time we rotate, it's reloading that state, which is exactly what we want. And that's it for the model. That's pretty much it. That's how the model works and how you get stuff in and out. The next video will be a bit shorter, but essentially we're going to have a list of those repositories. So I'm going to have the views pre-made because you know how to do a list view if you're watching this. And we're going to handle passing data from one activity to another with this architecture. So stay tuned for that.